Hey, family, and welcome back to Her Reality Check. I am your host, Madison Johnson, and you already know the tea. This podcast is all about love, the good, the bad, and the delusional. And yes, I've been that girl, but I no longer am. And I stand on this: God did not create us to settle. So grab your wine, get comfy, and let's dive into today's reality check. This episode, y'all, is going to be a little bit different because it's actually my first solo episode, and I'm so excited because I've been looking forward to doing this episode since I started this podcast, but it took me a little time to be ready for it. And honestly, right now, y'all, I'm still kind of nervous, but we're just going to get through it together. So today is just going to be me and my family. I'm talking to y'all about like some real stuff that happened in my life. So we're going to have some kind of raw, open conversations, but it's a topic that I feel like we really need to discuss. So I'm excited and I'm kind of nervous for y'all's reactions, but I think it'll be good. I think it'll be good and it's important. So the title of this episode is Finding Peace in the Pieces. So a few weeks ago on social media, I posted a clip on my story. It was actually from I think my third episode, and it was the dating and waiting episode. And I talked about a situation that happened to me. And I was like thanking God for guiding me to wait until marriage to have sex and things like that. And I was like, thank God I did make that decision to wait, because if not, I would have been being intimate with a man who was also being intimate with another man at the same time. And when I posted that clip, I got so many reactions on social media. I remember I posted it and I was like, okay, let's see how this does, God. And I was at work and I didn't have any service really. And so when I checked back, it had 300 shares. I was getting calls in the middle of the day. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I knew it would spark some conversations, but it almost kind of overwhelmed me a little bit. But I knew once I dropped that clip, I was like, it's gonna come a time where I'm gonna have to share this full story. So today is the day. Some of the comments I received were not great. Most of the feedback was good. People were encouraging me to share this story and what happened. But some of the comments weren't good. People didn't like what I had to say. They were like, why would you talk about this? Why would you bring this up? But I'm like, okay, if it happened to me, I know it's happened to other people. And I might just feel too ashamed or scared or even embarrassed to speak out on it. And I don't feel like anybody should feel that way. So I'm going to share my story. So yeah, anything, I do want to give a little disclaimer about this topic, since it is such a heavy topic and it's gonna probably make a few people uncomfortable to talk about. I told y'all, I'm nervous to talk about it myself, but anything I share on this podcast is never meant to condemn, target, judge, or harm anyone or any community. So this story is simply me bringing awareness to something I know other women have experienced but may feel too scared or ashamed to speak about. And I also want to remind you that there's nothing to be embarrassed about when it comes to seeking love, putting yourself out there, and trusting what someone tells you. So this story isn't about throwing shade or spreading hate. It's about discernment, growth, and awareness. And I will never drop any names or specific timelines or any targeting details pointing to a particular person, because this story isn't about them. It's about me. So yes, let's dive into everything. But before we do, I have to do the wine of the day. I brought my Stanley because I'm probably not going to drink it today, but I do still want to introduce it because my dad actually gave me a box of wines, Stella Roses. And so I've been trying different ones. This one is the honey peach one, so I'm excited to try this. So definitely check it out. I think they sell it at Sam's and Costco, the box. So be sure to look into that. And I posted a wine that I tried yesterday from that box, and I tagged Stella Rose and they reposted it today. So I'm hoping that the sponsorships are coming soon. But yeah, let's get into the story, because I know that's what y'all are waiting for. So I'm gonna just kind of start off from the beginning. What's this story about? It's about a time how I felt for a guy who was not honest with me about his sexuality. It kind of starts off like any other love and romance story. We met, we became friends, and we grew to be really, really close. So I remember we were spending all of our time together. If you saw him, you saw me together, and people would question oh, are y'all together? We'd be like, no, we're just friends, because we were. But there was something starting to spark between us. So we knew it was becoming a little bit more, but we just didn't tell other people. So we were really close. We stayed the night with each other. I knew his family, he knew my family, and we were just always together. We were just really, really super close. And it got to the point where eventually we were okay, we have feelings for each other. And so we weren't dating, but we basically were like, it wasn't a situationship because we kind of knew what it was. We just weren't telling other people. And we never really did, but like our families kind of knew. But it doesn't mean my family was supportive of it, because my mom did know and she wasn't supportive of it. But yeah, we were just really close, and it was good until it wasn't, if that makes sense. So I remember hearing like different rumors, and like people would tell me things. Like I would talk to my friends about him, and I would be like, oh yeah, like he's doing this, and like we go out on dates and it's just like really nice. And they would be like, okay, but are you like 100% sure like he's being honest with you? Like just be careful, like protect yourself. And I'm like, yeah, like I mean, we weren't having sex, so I wasn't really worried about that, but I guess like protecting my heart was important. And I was just like, yeah, like I didn't feel like that was something that I had to be careful about because of how close we were. And like we would share so many things with each other, and obviously like when I would hear those rumors, I would ask him about it, and he would tell me, he would be like, no, that's not true. And like people have said things about me, and it's never been true. Like I know what I want in life. I like women. I want to grow up and have a wife and a family. Like that's what I want for myself. So it's just not true. And because we were so close and I trusted him the way that I did, I just believed everything that he told me. And also, like, you know how it is when you are in a relationship with someone that you are really into or that you like and like even love, because honestly I felt like that's what I felt for him. I felt like I loved him, so your judgment can become kind of clouded, and so that's kind of what it was. And also like the way I grew up, I was really sheltered, and I'm grateful for my parents for like raising me the way that they did, because I felt like it kept my innocence for a long time. And I feel like sometimes I low-key still have it, like that naiveness, but they just didn't want me to know like all the evil and things that really like exist in the world. And so growing up like that, I didn't really know about stuff like this, like that this could happen. So that really wasn't like on my mind. So when people would tell me that, I'm like, yeah, but he told me what it is, and so that's what I'm going to choose to believe. And so that's really what I did. But I do remember the moment that something like shifted for me, and when my mindset kind of changed on that. So I remember we were together in his room and we were just hanging out and stuff. I think he went into the kitchen or something like that. And I wasn't the only person there. There was like other people there too. We were all just hanging out. And I remember I was sitting on his bed and my mom called me, and she was like, Madison, like, I don't know what it is, but like I have this feeling that I can't shake. And I remember feeling like, okay, like what is she talking about? She was like, I know how much you like him. I know you love him and you want to believe what he says, but I don't think he's being honest. And if you know, like, if you know me, you know my mom is like my best friend. Like, we're super, super close. So I tell her literally everything. And so when she said that, I was like, okay, like, why are you saying that? Like, why would you say that? And she's like, I don't know, but I feel like she knew I was with him at that time. She was like, I feel like you need to leave. Like, you just need to leave his room. You need to go back to your room. You need to pray. You need to talk to God. And I was just like, I was so sad. I was like, okay, why is she saying this? So that was the moment it really shifted for me, and I was like, okay, maybe I do need to rethink the situation. So I went back to my room, and I remember he asked me, he was like, why did you leave? And I was telling him, I just need to ask you this question again. And he was like, oh my gosh, like we're talking about this again. I'm like, yeah, because it keeps coming up. Like it doesn't keep coming up for no reason. So we talked about it. We had a long conversation about it, and at the end of that conversation, it came back to the same conclusion that like he was just being honest with me. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just keep believing him. So we kept talking a little bit after that, but like I said, something did shift for me in that moment. So it was never able to be how it was again, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, if my mom was feeling this so strongly, like this, you know, a mother's intuition, it doesn't lie. And my mom, honestly, when it comes to me and giving advice, she's never been wrong about anything. So I was like, okay, I can't shake this feeling. So eventually we started to like kind of argue more and get into it, and we just kind of grew apart. Like I said, we weren't officially dating, but so it wasn't like anything to like break off, but we just stopped hanging out as much, and I got a little bit more busy, he got more busy, so we kind of just grew apart naturally. But we were still like friends, and we would still like hang out and stuff like that. It was just kind of like this weird vibe and tension, especially coming from me, because I was just unsure at that point. And so we kind of just grew apart. So I remember the next year I met a new guy, and we were just friends. Like we were just friends. It was nothing romantic there. It was just strictly platonic. And he told me like his sexuality. He told me he was bisexual. And so he was like, "Oh yeah, do you remember like that guy that you talked to last year?" And I was like, "Who are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, that guy you were talking to. I remember like I used to see y'all together all the time, and I wonder if y'all were together." And I was like, "Oh, like okay, what about him?" He was like, "Yeah, when I first started seeing you, I was like, oh, I kind of want to be your friend, but the reason he wanted to be my friend was to see if I was actually dating that guy." And so I was like, "So you basically like became my friend to kind of like get information?" He was like, "No, I became your friend because I wanted to tell you that I was with him." And I was like, "Okay." So when he told me that, I was just like gutted. Like I felt sick to my stomach. I was like, "What do you mean you were with him?" He was like, "Yeah, we were together. Like he had been lying to you, and now that we're friends and like we're close, like I wanted to be honest and share that with you because I don't want to hide anything from you." So when he told me that, I really felt like the first feeling I felt was nauseous. I remember me and him had that conversation in the car. I could open the door and just threw up. Like it was crazy how I was feeling. I was like, I can't believe this actually happened. Like everything everybody was telling me, it was true. And because I had this friend that I trusted and I knew he was being honest with me, I was just like, this is crazy. And I just couldn't believe that had happened to me. And it had went on for so long. And I'm like, this person that I was basically with and that I loved, like the whole time he was lying and doing all these other things. And I had no idea. I'm like, when did he have the time? Like all these questions started going through my head, and I'm like, God, like what did I miss? Like what was I not seeing? So I just felt so dumb. And so I was just over it. And so I had to take some time to really find myself again. I felt like I had lost myself completely, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to trust. I didn't know what to believe with anybody. And so it was kind of like a rocky time for me, but God is real. So eventually I got myself back together. I got back on my feet and I was okay. But yeah, that was a hard situation that I dealt with, and it kind of shifted my perspective on a lot of things in my life. And so when I think about it, I look back and I'm like, okay, what signs did I miss? For one, I think I should have paid attention to when he would get upset with like his bros or like his homeboys and things like that. I remember being like, why are you getting so mad? Like, and it would be something so minuscule that he would be mad about with them. Like maybe they didn't respond to like his message quick enough or something like that. And I'd be like, why are you getting mad about that? But at the same time, like little flags like that, like red flags, I would kind of just overlook them because of how much I liked him. And so I was like, okay, but later on, I found out those homeboys that he was getting mad at, he did have feelings for them. And that was revealed to me through like some other things, but just stuff like that I kind of didn't pay too much attention to that I kind of should have. That was one big sign that I noticed. Two, I should have listened to the people around me and the people closest to me. When me and him like just started hanging out a little bit more, I had friends telling me like, hey, be careful because I think he might not just like women. And so I would be like, okay, like, why are you saying that? Like, I would kind of get irritated when people would tell me that because I'm like, I keep hearing the same thing over and over. And I know, like, you're probably thinking, like, okay, if you kept hearing it over and over, obviously believe it. But I want you to kind of like put yourself in my shoes and think about someone that you really, really like or somebody that you love. And if you're really close with that person, when people are telling you things about that person and they have told you that they're not true, you're going to kind of brush it off because you're like, okay, I know this person, I feel like better than anybody. So nobody can come in and tell me things about them that I don't already know. So when they would say those things, I just didn't believe it, but I should have listened to the people closest to me because obviously they had my best interest at heart. So that was another big thing. Three, I should have been more in my word. So my discernment could have been better. At this time, I don't know how to explain it. I was just having this conversation with someone the other day. I was like, when you grow up in the church, like my dad, he was a deacon and then he was a preacher. So we went to church every Sunday, all the holidays, very active in the church. I was in the choir. I was an usher. So growing up in a traditional like Black Baptist church, I don't know how to explain it. Like you know God and you know Jesus and you know the story and you hear him so much that you just get comfortable in your faith. And so you stop really doing as much research on your own rather than someone who goes and they have to discover God through a situation that they've experienced, and they had nowhere else to go, and so they found God like that, and so they're more on fire for him. So I guess I felt like I kind of lost that fire because I'm like, okay, I know all the stories. Yes, I believe in Jesus. I know he's there. I talk to him, I pray, but it was nothing like where I was actively like seeking a real relationship with him at the age that I was at. And somebody gave me a good analogy. They were like, okay, so if you only went to school and you stopped in second grade, you're not going to know any more information after second grade. So you're probably going to be lacking in a lot of areas. And it's kind of the same thing with our faith. Like if you seek God and you stop seeking him at a certain age and you stop learning, then eventually those things are going to kind of fade, and you're not going to really know him like right now. And so you can't really apply the word to your life because you don't know the word. All you know is like the basic like stories that people would tell you when you were younger, like Noah's Ark and Jonah and the whale. Like you can't really apply that to your life if you don't know how to use it because you're not in your word. And so I really had to do some deep self-reflection. And I was like, I need to get back in my word. I need to start talking to God, because if I would have been closer to him, then my discernment would have been stronger, and I could have seen these red flags and they wouldn't have looked like pink, if that makes sense. So I would have been paying more attention. Things would have stuck out a little bit more for me, and I wouldn't have missed so much. So that was a big thing. And then if you feel something in your gut that something is off, don't push it away. Ask your questions and do your research on a person, because obviously once I was hearing it so much, I had a feeling like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have pushed it away. Like I should have trusted that feeling and allowed it to grow a little bit, so it was like tugging on me a little bit more. But like I said, I was so focused on him that all those other feelings kind of were faded in the back of my mind. And I went to church yesterday and I was talking about it, and the preacher was saying like whatever is like an idol in your life or on your heart, and it makes you like so emotional and you're like kind of consumed by it, that's what you're going to pay attention to. So when God wasn't first in my life, that's what I paid attention to. So that's why his voice wasn't clear to me. That's why I wasn't hearing him. That's why when the Holy Spirit was kind of like tugging at me, it was more like a whisper instead of like a fire alarm, like what it should have been. And I didn't realize that until later. So yeah, those are kind of like some of the signs that I wish I should have paid attention to. Healing. What does healing look like so far? It's not easy. It's very up and down. Even though this happened some years ago, it still shifted my perspective on dating and relationships and trusting people. It was like a lot of long nights asking God, like, what did I miss? What was I not seeing? How did I miss that? It's just weird when you look back on it. It's like, okay, how were you in this mindset where you just missed all of this completely? So it's like, I look back and I'm like, okay, I felt like I was like a cover up for this person, because if he had time to do X, Y, and Z, like, how did I not notice any of this? How did I not see it? And I felt like we were spending all of our time together. Just stuff like that. I questioned myself. I questioned my worth. Like I said, I felt very ashamed to speak about this because it did make me feel like I was dumb. Like I was naive, like I was green to everything. So I didn't like to talk about it with people, and it did feel embarrassing. So yeah, healing is difficult, and to be extremely like transparent, triggers are so real now. Like when I take that into every new relationship. So I used to make like a joke with my friends, like at this point I just have to assume no man is straight until like they prove it to me, and they'd be like, no, like that's not the case. And I like laugh, I try to laugh it off, but like that's so real now, because any guy that I talk to or any person that I'm dating, I'm like, what if they're lying to me? Like, what if they're not being honest with me? So I'm looking at every little thing and like over analyzing everything. And I was reading a quote last night, and it was like, healing often looks like hyper awareness before it settles into wisdom. And so that's kind of the place I'm in right now. Even though this happened a while ago, I don't do a whole lot of dating. So, and honestly, this is because of that reason. Like, that situation shifted my perspective so much that I just stopped trusting people. I barely trust myself. I'm like, I don't know if I can trust my own intuition. I don't know if I can trust my own decision making, because how did I let this happen. And like it went on for so long. Like me and this guy were together for probably like maybe a year or so. So I'm like, I just missed this completely. And I was defending him like to the death. Like nobody could tell me anything about him. And because I was so like naive and not seeing that, I don't trust my decision making now when it comes to dating. So I don't date as much. And I'm scared to date, especially if I don't know someone from somewhere. So like y'all know, at one point I was on the dating apps and stuff like that. Definitely meeting people like that is terrifying because I'm like, I have no idea like your background. You could be lying to me about everything and I would never know. So it's just stuff like that that's harder to do now. And it's just an adjustment that I'm having to make. And the way that I'm kind of going about that is really trying to get closer to God. I'm actively like seeking God's guidance and like listening for his voice in everything that I do. Like now I barely trust any of the decisions I make. So any little thing, I'm like, okay, God, give me confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to do. Even with this episode, I've been praying about this episode and practicing it over and over for months. Like even before I knew I wanted to like really start this podcast, I'm like, I know one day I want to share this story, and I practiced it and I went over and over in my head. And I'm just like, no, I'm not ready. Like, I don't think I want to share this because it's just too much. Like it was just too much, especially because I talked to some of my friends about it and other people about it, and they were like, oh yeah, like that's, I don't know if you should share that. Like people are going to be uncomfortable by that. You don't want to offend anybody. But I'm like, this happened to me and I know like it's happened to other people. I don't want to not share a story out of fear of like what people are going to say about me and what they're going to think about me, because that's why I started the podcast, is to have like those conversations. In my intro, I'm like, what do I say in my intro? I want to say I'm like, it's the good, the bad, and the delusional. So I don't want to just talk about the good things. Like I want to talk about the bad things, the hard conversations, like the real stuff, because I know sometimes people might look at my social media and look at my life from the outside and think like I kind of have it all together, but really it's a lot going on, and I'm dealing with like real stuff, and real stuff happens with everybody, and social media isn't 100% real. So you just can't go off what you see. And I don't want people to look at me and think like, oh, I've had a perfect dating life and everything is together, because that's not the case. Like it's been a roller coaster. So I just feel like sharing my story can help somebody realize that it's just not easy, and everybody deals with stuff no matter what it may look like. So yeah, that's the healing journey is hard. What I'm doing now to like kind of protect myself and kind of get back to who I feel like I'm supposed to be, journaling, prayer, and community. I talk about stuff more now because once you actually talk about it, it's not as big. You know what I'm saying? So like once you're able to speak about topics and the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get with it, that's healing. Because, okay, when I first mentioned it, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm crying, like I'm triggered every time I talk about it. But now I'm like, I'm here, I can speak on it. Even though it's difficult, progress is being made because it's not as hard as it was the first time I told the story. So just talking about it, finding community of other people who have also like experienced this, and listening to how they've healed and grown from it, that really helps. So yeah, I just want to remind anyone who's listening that being hurt doesn't mean that you were foolish. It means you were open, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about when it comes to finding love, trying to find your person, and seeking that comfort in somebody. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be mindful and you have to be careful. That's just what I can say. And also what's helped is speaking life into myself. Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So the power and life and death is in the tongue. I know y'all have heard that a billion times, but it's true. Like what you speak over yourself, you can make that happen. And I think science has also proven that as well. So, like a lot of times science and the Bible don't connect, but this one thing they do, and I've been like doing my research on it and stuff, what you tell yourself and what you speak out loud, it like sends signals to your brain, and so your brain will believe that even if it's not true, it'll believe that. So when you tell yourself, oh, constantly like, I'm tired, I don't feel good, and this like that, your body and your mind are like gonna believe that, and so you're probably gonna feel more tired than you actually are, because that's what you're actually speaking. So I'm learning now, like through my affirmations and journaling and like prayer and stuff, I have to speak that life into myself. I have to say I'm worthy of love, like I'm smart, I'm intelligent, God loves me, I'm not my mistakes, and things like that. So here's some other examples. I am worthy of honesty, safety, and real love. God does not shame me. He protects and restores me, and I forgive myself for what I didn't know. And I think that's been probably the hardest thing, is forgiving myself, because with like the shame and the embarrassment also comes a lot of guilt, because it's like I had people telling me what was right and I didn't listen. So it's like I can't really blame anybody else but myself, and I put a lot of that on me, even though it's not 100% my fault, if that makes sense. So just learning to forgive myself and kind of move on and not let that situation define me. It takes time, and it's still taking time, but I know with God, I'm going to get there. So yeah. So why am I talking about this, and what awareness am I raising? I'm advocating for women, and especially for Black women, to protect themselves, because, okay, so this is really, really real. So statistics, I've been reading them about like STDs, STIs, like diseases that can be like transmitted. And Black women have the highest rate of some of these diseases, specifically HIV. According to the CDC, in 2018, African Americans accounted for 42% of the 37,968 new HIV diagnoses in the United States independent areas. And of those new diagnoses, 42 were African Americans, 31 were Black men, and 11 were Black women. And this is real. And like I said, I'm grateful to God that I was making that decision, and that I have made that decision. I made that at a young age, and I'm still following it through to wait until marriage, because I could have been a part of that statistic. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing what position I'm putting myself in, because like I said, I was with this person, I love this person, and I trusted them. You know what I'm saying? So I got to put myself in a really dangerous situation. So that's why I'm speaking about this specifically, because I know it's real and I know it's happened to women. And I want to talk a little bit too about why I feel like, and what studies show why it's so high for the Black community. So I'm gonna kind of read it from here, so because I don't want to miss anything. But within the African American community, conversations around sexuality are shaped by rigid expectations of masculinity and the policed Black body. Historically and socially, Black men have been pressured to uphold a hyper-masculine image, one that emphasizes toughness, strength, and heterosexual dominance. And and this is a response to generations of attempted emasculation that goes back to slavery. And for many, Black cultural identity is deeply intertwined with being perceived as heterosexual and traditionally masculine. And as a result, engaging in same-sex behavior is sometimes viewed as like a threat to that identity. So this leads to some men concealing these experiences in order to maintain a social acceptance and standing. And because of this, some Black men feel pressure to hide parts of their sexual lives, engaging in same-sex relationships privately while maintaining heterosexual relationships publicly. When people are sexually active with multiple partners across different networks, especially without open disclosure or consistent protection, it can increase the risk of STD transmission. Now, these dynamics help to explain in part why higher STD rates can exist among Black women, alongside many other structural and systematic factors. But basically, that pressure on Black men, it's hard and it's real. And I've listened to the stories, like we've all seen them on TikTok. It's a lot of pressure to be a certain way, and when you kind of stray from that, you get ridiculed by your friends, by your family, and by your community, and it's hard to be accepted. So I can understand why people hide, but we also have to realize, like, if you are struggling with something like that, you have to think about other parties that are included. Like if you are being sexually active with the same sex and you're not protecting yourself, and you're also sleeping with women, you can transmit things, and that's dangerous for everybody. So we have to be mindful of those kind of things. And I know women have experienced this, so I'm saying, like, my advice personally, and I tell this to like everybody I meet, would just be to wait until you're married, until you find your person. To me, that's the safest way to do it, but I know everybody's not going to do that. So my advice would be to protect yourself. Like, always use protection with everything that you're doing, because you just never know, and you don't want to ever be in a situation where something happens that can't be undone or that you can't reverse. So yeah, that's my advice to everyone. Yeah, this story and this situation, it's a lot, and there's a lot more to it that I'm sure, like, over time through other episodes, like, things will like come out. But I really wanted to share this story because when I posted that clip, like, a lot of people were messaging me and saying different things. And some people, like, I got a phone call, and they were like, yeah, like, why would you talk about this? I was like, whoa, like, okay, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. If anything, I'm trying to help somebody, because I know I'm not the only one who's gone through something like this. And it is hard. It's not easy at all. And it was a difficult experience, especially after finding out, like, all those emotions. I really don't like to think too much on them because I don't like to relive them, if that makes sense. But it's one of the worst feelings you can have, is like when someone you love has lied to you about something so big. So my advice to you is, to anyone listening, men and women, don't give up on love and finding your person because of a situation that may have happened to you. This was my story, but I know people have been, like, cheated on and have had their heart broken for different reasons, but it doesn't mean that you're not still deserving of true, authentic, real love. And I want everyone to know that and believe that. And that comes with talking to God, getting in your word, building that relationship with him, and just staying true to who you are and trusting your discernment. Like, build yourself up to the point where your relationship with God is like, when he's talking to you, you can hear him clearly. Like, everything that he's saying, it's registering your mind. Like, you don't have to question yourself, And I'm still getting to that point. Like I said, it was a situation where I asked God for confirmation. I said, show me 4 orange cars or something like that, just because I need to make sure that what I'm thinking is correct, because I still do question myself. But yeah, I do believe that God does have a person for me. I don't know who it is, but I pray for my future husband all the time, and I hope that he's praying for me. And I believe that when he does send me my person, I'm going to know. So I do still have hope. I know it's going to come with time, and I do want to get into therapy, and I used to have my opinions on that, but I really do want to find a therapist to kind of help me work through some of these things that I'm still dealing with and I'm still feeling that I carry with me all the time, to kind of break some of those, like, barriers that I still have up, so that I am able to be loved correctly and I can receive that. But I think it'll be okay. I feel like everything's going to work itself out, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for me and what God has in store for me. So yeah, that was the story. I know I want to say, like, I hope y'all enjoyed it, but I don't know if it's like a story to really enjoy, but I hope it, like, taught you something. I hope you learned something from it. And if you can relate to this, I hope you know that you're just not alone. So yeah, thank you, family, so much for listening to this story and this episode. I know it was a little bit different. I didn't drink my wine. Like I told y'all, I brought my Stanley because I felt like I was going to get parched. So it was just my water. But yeah, I'm excited to see what these next episodes look like. I want to start having conversations with different people about different topics and stuff like that. I know my podcast is centered around love, but I know y'all have seen I've done episodes for the love of, like, sports and music and things like that. So not just focusing on specifically dating and relationships, but I want to also talk about the importance of, like, friendship, family, community, church, and things like that. So just stay tuned for what's next. It's going to be great. And I'm excited to see where God takes this podcast and this family and on this journey. So just stay tuned, family. And thank you so much for supporting me. And when this airs, I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear how y'all feel. My messages and my DMs are always open. You're not by yourself. You're not alone. So yeah, thank you, family, for tuning in to today's episode of Her Reality Check. I love y'all and stay safe. Happy holidays.